friends, with Palm Sunday, we enter into the Holy Week, a time we've all been preparing for in our own ways. Welcome to the Holy Week. Do you notice that Palm Sunday is the only Sunday when two Gospels are proclaimed during the liturgy? The first, before the procession with palms, is taken from Matthew's Gospel. And during the liturgy of the Word, the events of Jesus' passion and death are proclaimed in full again from the Gospel of Matthew. Therefore, Palm Sunday is not just another Sunday. It is the gateway into something deeper, something uncomfortable, something profoundly beautiful. It is the doorway into Holy Week, the week in which we walk step by step with Christ toward the cross and beyond it toward life. On Palm Sunday, palms are raised, voices lifted, echoing the cry of the crowd in Jerusalem. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. It feels like a moment of triumph, but very quickly the tone changes. The same liturgy leads us into the passion, the betrayal, the suffering, the humiliation, and the death of Jesus. Why does the church place such emphasis on this story? Why do we listen in such detail to the suffering and execution of an innocent man? I'm sure not because God demanded suffering. No. Not because Jesus sought pain, not at all, but because in this moment, more than any other, we see the truth of love. But we also see the reality of human beings. The dark side of human nature is very much in evidence in the passion narrative that we read on Palm Sunday. There is a betrayal in Judas, one of the 12, the public denial of Jesus by Peter, the leader of the 12, the sleep of Peter, James, and John in the garden, at a time when Jesus needed them most, the cowardice of the disciples as a whole who abandoned Jesus and left him to suffer alone. There is the moral cowardice of Pilate, the cruelty of his soldiers, and the blindness of the high priest and the religious leaders to Jesus' true identity. All of this happened at the very moment Jesus needed them most. When he was in agony in the garden, they slept. When he was arrested, they ran away. When he was questioned, Peter denied even knowing him. When his life was on the line, Pilate washed his hands. This is not just a story, dear friends. It is a mirror held up to humanity. And if we are honest, it is the story of humanity. It is the story of many of us, including myself. You know what? One of the deepest pains in human life is this: to be in need, as we all know. And to discover that at that very moment, at that very point, the person you counted on is no longer there, is no longer available, is not able to react, to help, to speak out, to denounce the injustice, to say the truth. A father is dead when the child or wife needed him. A mother is gone when the husband or the children needed her the most. A student who struggled, very intelligent and promising, but found no one to pay school fees for him or her to continue in his or her studies. The parents are not there, and those who could help are afraid to invest on him or to invest on her, and it becomes terrible. And at some point, and sometimes life becomes hardest, not because of the problem itself, but because we face it alone. We are just alone. Many people carry this pain quietly. The Germans say in one of their kind of proverbs, said, weinen im Keller, to cry, hidden. You don't want to show your emotion. You don't want people to see what you are passing through. You don't want people to see you crying because of the social kind of attributes attached to suffering, attached to crying, attached to human vulnerability. Therefore, we prefer to cry hidden. We swallow it, we feel it, and we carry it alone. Weinen im Keller. I think here of a very real and painful example. A young woman loses her husband early in marriage. The very moment she needed her partner most, he was no longer there. And she must find the strength to stand again, to stand alone. I think of my own mother. She lost her husband at a tender age in marriage with 7 children who still needed to be raised. At the very time she needed him most, the husband was buried. Suddenly, she is left alone with us, 7 children, with the responsibility to be a mother and at the same time a father, and the responsibility to carry on, to face the future she did not choose. She had to carry everything alone, the pain, the responsibility, the future. And then came something even more painful and even more touching to me. A man of God told her, the church allows you to remarry if your husband is dead. Yes, that may be true in principle, but what was missing was understanding, reality, and compassion from this man of God. Which man will marry a woman with 7 children? Which man will step into that situation? Sometimes people offer answers that are correct in theory and perhaps according to the rules and regulations, but completely disconnected from the reality of human suffering. And that, too, is a kind of abandonment. Dear friends, we see this everywhere in society today, in families where someone is left to carry burden alone, in schools where a young person is struggling silently and no one notices, in friendship where presence disappears when things become difficult, in our communities where people are surrounded by others yet feel deeply alone. Today, many people and societies still carry this silent crisis, loneliness, isolation, and the feeling that when I truly need someone, no one is there. And this is exactly where the passion of Christ speaks so powerfully, because Jesus knows this pain. He knows what it is to be abandoned. He knows what identity crisis means today. He knows what it is to be left alone. He knows what it is to look for support and not find it. And yet this is the mystery. He does not respond with bitterness. He does not close his heart. He continues to love. Dear friends, the event we recall on Palm Sunday represents the final phase and climax of Jesus' life-giving mission of love. And they reveal, as the 4th Eucharistic prayer reminds us, how perfect his love was, even in the moment of abandonment. So, the passion narrative that we read on Palm Sunday is not a story of despair, because even in the darkness there is light. There is Simon of Cyrene, who helps carry the cross. There are the women who remain faithful to the end. There is the centurion who recognizes the truth. And there is Joseph of Arimathea, who offers dignity in death. Therefore, even in the worst moment of history, goodness does not disappear, dear friends. We saw this even in Europe's darkest hour, during wars, during oppression, even in the horror of the Holocaust, where figures like Maximilian Kolbe revealed extraordinary love in the face of unimaginable evil. Light shines in the darkness, and at the center of it all is this mystery that the death of Jesus speaks even more powerful than his life. On the cross, Jesus reveals a love that does not stop at suffering, a love that does not retreat in the face of rejection, a love that endures everything. Dear friends, in a culture that fears weaknesses, avoids suffering, and often measures worth by success and productivity, this is a challenge. Because here is the truth of the gospel. We are not only valuable when we are strong, we are not only meaningful when we are successful, even in our own weaknesses, even in our doubt, even in our moments of loss, illness, or confusion, we can still love, we can still give, we can still be a light for others. Sometimes our quiet presence, our endurance, our faith in darkness can speak more powerfully than all our achievements. And then there is Judas that comes. Matthew alone tells us of his tragic end, the tragic end of Judas. Judas, in that case, represent all those who get excited about Jesus at first, but then when he doesn't meet their personal expectations, abandon him or even join the other side. He represents a painful reality, the possibility of losing hope, of believing that our failure is final, of thinking we are beyond forgiveness. Dear friends, we don't know exactly what Judas was thinking after he betrayed the master. But when he realized what he had done, knowing he had no friends left among the disciples, he looked for help. Sadly, he went to the worst possible people, the high priest who had just used him. If he had only turned back to Christ, the story surely would have ended differently. Peter also felt, but Peter wept and returned. The tears of Peter were the tears of a man, of a woman, who knew he had denied someone who loved with a divine love. The suicide of Judas suggests that he never fully realized how much Jesus loved him or how all-embracing God's loving mercy was. How many people today in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, any other continent, and in our own communities carry this same burden, the burden of guilt, shame, loneliness, or the feeling that they have gone too far, the feeling that they are nothing but sinners. Some have experienced betrayal, absence, or deep disappointment, abandonment. Some are carrying responsibilities they never expected to carry alone. Sometimes the most Christ-like thing we can do is simply not to leave when someone needs us most. Dear friends, Palm Sunday And the whole of Holy Week is God's answer. No one is beyond mercy. No failure is greater than God's love. Therefore, the passion and death of Jesus has a message for our own lives. It teaches us that, like Jesus, we can give as much to others in times of weakness as in times of strength. We too can reveal God's love to others as much in times of seeming inactivity as in times of activity. Our presence can be truly life-giving for others, even when we see to have lost, or we believe we have lost control of so much of our lives. So, as we enter this Holy Week, we are not spectators. This is not just a story from the past. This is our story. We are in the crowd. We are among the disciples. We stand at the cross, and we are invited not just to watch, but to walk with Christ. This is what Jesus did. Even when everyone else walked away, he remained faithful. Even when love cost him everything, he did not withdraw from it. And that is the call of the Holy Week for us, to become people who can be counted on, people who remain, people who love not only when it is easy, but especially when it is difficult. Dear friends, as you take your palms home today, Palm Sunday, do not let them be just a tradition. Let them be a sign that you choose the way of peace in a world of violence, a sign that you choose hope in a world of despair, a sign that you choose love even when it costs you something. Because this is what Palm Sunday reveals, that Christ entered Jerusalem for us, that he walked toward the cross for us, that he gave his life to tell you this one unshakable truth. You are loved. You are worth everything. And that love is stronger than sin, stronger than suffering, stronger even than death. Let us walk with him this week, and let us allow his love to transform our lives as we journey into this Holy Week.
Open your heart to the love.